The reason why I got into photography full time is because I realized after shooting for a while that I loved it. And I wanted to do it every day. But when I got into it full time, I didn't get into it for the money. I got into it because it's something that I wanted to be around all the time. I wanted to experience that love of creating and sharing, that bliss that I would encounter, that state of enlightenment, that state of flow that I would be in while creating a photograph. And I thought, God, if I can make money doing this, it means I could do it all the time. And if I could do it all the time, I could be in that state of bliss all the time. Now, what I had found is that it's not necessarily true, because to be in it all the time, because you have to run a business, and truthfully, you want to be able to kind of come up from air from time to time and see the reality around you, right? Because that's kind of what we do as photographers. We observe reality and then we capture that reality. And sometimes if you're into photo illustrations, you may create your own reality, but as a photographer, I am capturing that reality as I see it. As you know, if you had watched my previous episodes, when I started shooting, I was on welfare. I was poor. I was broke. But what I had was love. And it's the love that got me through from one day to the next and to the next and to the next. And eventually I was able to be able to make a living. And here's how I did it. You may know that how I marketed that content, but what really kept me through was the love of the work and creating work that I love for myself, and then showing that work to others. Let me explain a little more. When we're creating our best work, it's often when we are creating work for ourselves. Because the thing is, when you create work for yourselves, your personal projects, your self-assignments, you have no one to answer to but yourself. You're able to be fully self-expressed without any care in the world, and you're creating your art for you. And what you need to understand is that in the commercial world, at the highest level of the commercial world, people are mostly hired because they have a unique vision. That unique vision is, as it sounds, unique unto you. So that if you have some work, and maybe you're bidding with me on a job, or people say against me, but really bidding with me on a job and with some other people on the same job, everyone's going to have a different look if you are truly creating work based on who you are. Now, some photographers take the love out of the work and they make it strictly as a business. However, if I wanted to make a lot of money, photography would not be the business that I would get in. But I am a photographer as an artist, and my business is the business of photography. See, you gotta sell it, right? So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta be creating what you really love without consideration of what others may think. Okay, for me, when I was first starting, I was shooting bands, I was shooting young artists, I was shooting a variety of people in the young people or alternative world, photo shoots in bars, photo shoots in clubs. This is what a lot of people would do that are in their late 20s, early 30s, right around that age when you're really kind of going out and you're documenting that. I would grab my friends, we would go shoot on the street. So, I lived in downtown Phoenix, so I had a real street style, a real kind of a rough edge and edginess to it, and I really didn't give a damn what other people thought. I was making beautiful work for myself. And other people had taken notice, so I started shooting for some local magazines, some just for free, some, as we talked about in the previous video, for pay, for like Village Voice. But the thing is that my work had a soul, and that soul was part of who I am. And when you create in a personal project, people are going to see that, and they're going to say, people that are in charge of hiring photographers, and what they're going to say is, I want that look. The smart clients. The cheap clients want cheap. And no matter what you do, you cannot please the cheap clients. But the smart clients, the ones that will pay you properly, the ones that say, Giulio, here's our budget, but if you need more, we'll get you more. Just do what you got to do to make it good. Those are the clients you want. And those are the clients that are going to hire you based on what you are creating, okay? So the first thing you got to do is you got to create a personal project. Before you actually create your personal project, what you need to think about is your look. Everybody photographs differently. You know, if we all photographed the same object, it would come out different for everybody. That's because we all see differently, no matter how much you want to try to replicate each other. So you want to take note of your look, and if you're finding something a look that you're loving, say lighting, a background, a particular focal length, that's the kind of stuff that you want to kind of notate and write down. If you got a vision file, this is a great time to reference that vision file. And if you're not familiar with a vision file, leave me a comment. Maybe I'll do another video on how to start a vision file and why it's important. Once you get your look down, come up with a theme for your project. This doesn't have to be difficult. And again, if you're basing this on love, it shouldn't be difficult. It should be like, I love to photograph street artists, so I'm gonna go photograph street artists. Or I want to photograph people in a pure animal state, so I'm gonna go photograph people in a pure animal state. I want to show the edge. Speaking of which, I think I'm gonna talk about a couple projects of mine. The first one I started in 2006, and I believe I finished it around 2008. It's called Faces of Ecstasy. So during this time in my career, my work was really edgy. I was known for bright colors, bold subjects, really bold, bright lighting. I was using 2 umbrellas on the sides to cross light, and then I would take a octabox and I would shoot almost straight down to kind of fill in the shadow that the 2 umbrellas would make. And I was shooting my portraits with usually a 24mm tilt shift lens or a 45mm tilt shift lens. And the images were really bold and they were edgy. And when companies would come to me and they would say, hey, we want an edgy look, I would propose to them an edgy concept, and it would often get rejected. So I said, okay, let me show people what the edge is. I'm gonna photograph people in the midst of an orgasm, and it's gonna be a real orgasm. And the idea behind this is to show the edge of how far I, as a photographer, am willing to push the edge, and to make a series of beautiful portraits, of real portraits of people in their pure animal state. So I'm going to link to the gallery below if you want to see Faces of Ecstasy. And if you just kind of search for Giulio Sciorio Faces of Ecstasy, you'll see a ton of stuff online. It had been talked about before the word viral was even a thing, and it had been seen perhaps millions of times by this point. And it got me a lot of work. So it took me time to shoot this, but as I was shooting this series, I'd shoot a couple, maybe 1 or 2 couples, some individuals. I would start showing them around. And based on Faces of Ecstasy, because they were so unique, because they were fully clothed, there was nothing disgusting about it, yet it provoked an emotional reaction in the viewer. Based on this series, I started to get work. I ended up getting jobs for USAA. I started getting jobs for Department of Health for a clean air campaign where we made people hold their breath on camera until they couldn't hold it anymore. Then as they just burst out with trying to gasp for air, I would snap the photo. So I was able to get some work out of this. Because what happens is when you're photographing something you really love in a series, a couple things happen. First of all, you love what you're seeing and you're sharing it with people. You can't wait to show this. Oh my God, I can't believe this. I've shot something really unique and I can't wait to show you. So when you make any calls, even if you don't even make calls, if you're just meeting people in person, you are talking about this stuff because it is stuff you truly love to show, because you truly love to create it. And that enthusiasm, that energy comes out in the work and it shows, and people see that and they say, I want that energy and I want it in this form for my ad campaign. I want that energy and I want it in this form for my editorial, or whatever the case may be. And that's how you get going with personal projects. That's how I got going with Faces of Ecstasy. Let's talk about another project though. Maybe something not so edgy.
He-Man. Oh, what a good boy, He-Man. I love you, dude.
Another thing that is important when you are creating a self-assignment, right, a personal project, is shooting in a series. Creating content that photography that is in a series, right? You're going to have some similar elements. Having similar elements and making it look beautiful, being able to do it again and again and again and again is going to show automatically potential clients that, hey, this photographer can create something from nothing and make it look good and make it consistent and tell a story and say something with their work again and again and again, which will tell the prospective client that if they say, okay, can you go out and recreate a look based on your personal project X, they know that they're going to be able to get that because you've already created that look 40 times, 60 times, 20 times, whatever it is. So I did this in Faces of Ecstasy, and I did this also in my series called Art Basel Street Portraits, or Street Portraits of Wynwood. I forgot the name right now, but the series basically was started when I first had my Micro Four Thirds camera, and I started shooting with that, and it was a fun experience using a small camera and creating without a viewfinder, using the screen, and I felt really free and loose and more in touch with people. And so I was in Miami during Art Basel, and I went to the Wynwood area of Miami, which is world renowned for some of the world's best street art. And during Art Basel is when most of the famous street artists are out and about. And that weekend I created over 130 beautiful street portraits, and they all have a very similar look and feel. And I'm going to link to that below as well so you can check that out. But that showed my clients, old clients, current clients, and prospective new clients that I could create a large body of work quickly, efficiently, and beautifully. And it was something that I just loved to do because when I was creating these street portraits, I would, I'm getting excited because I love street art because street art is by the people, for the people. And the same with street photography captures that. It's by the people, for the people. There's no pretense to it. It's just honest and real and beautiful. And I absolutely love street art. So I met a variety of people. I met one of the most famous street art photographers, Martha Cooper, who kind of started putting the lens of the world on the street art in New York. And I met Cobra, and I met Dabs Mila, and all these cool street artists from all over the place. And I would see them painting. I'd be like, oh my God, it looks amazing. Can I get your portrait real quick? And so they're in the middle of the work, doing their work, they turn around and I capture them. Sometimes I capture them after they were done, or if I just saw them on the street, I would capture them. And they're not all street artists. Some of them were, I got a portrait of my wife, I got a portrait of my friend Oren, I got portrait of just some beautiful elderly woman walking down the street. It was just a really cool vibe. And so I captured the essence of what was happening in Wynwood in that weekend. That work was seen by one of my current clients at the time, the Miami New Times, also owned at the time by Village Voice Media. And they said, hey, based on what we saw, are you comfortable? Do you want to shoot our people issue? This is our biggest people issue ever for Miami New Times. And I said, yes, I would love to shoot that. Thank you. So that job turned out to be 3 covers and it's like 6 weeks of shooting. I forgot how many portraits, 20 or so. I'll link to that below as well. So, and that led to that work, okay? And then shooting that work led, for Miami New Times, led to other work. And so you need to have a look with street portrait, with your personal projects. You need to be consistent with it. You need to make it something that you love so that you can naturally sell it. Let's talk more about that. So when you create something that you love, how do you sell it? And are we tainting our art with money? Well, the first thing is when you sell your art, if you're creating something that you love, you're always talking about it. You're telling somebody in line at the grocery store, you're telling somebody at the bar or the coffee shop. There's nothing stopping you because you're self-expressed and you love what you've made, and you're able to share that freely and truthfully and from the heart. And that energy is, people are going to pick up on that, and it's contagious, and people want to be around that. And so how you sell it is you just want to tell everybody that you know. If it's work that is truly unique to you, people will see it online and they'll start to share it. But don't put all your eggs into the social media basket. You really want to get out there and talk to people. If you love what you shot and you want to talk about it, and it's easy for you to talk about, then pick up the phone and start calling magazines that are local to you, sending out emails as well. Like I mentioned in my previous video, be what people describe me as pleasantly aggressive, right? You're happy to share the work that you love because you love it, but you're not taking no for an answer because you love the stuff that you've created, right? Now, when you do get the work, the commercial work based on your personal projects, is the money tainting that work? Basically, is the work that you're creating for money any different than your personal work? Well, the short answer is yes. And that's because when you're creating work that, although may be based on your personal self-assignments, your passion projects, when you're creating that work, or when you're creating work based on that for a paying client, there are compromises, right? There are compromises maybe in the wardrobe somebody would wear, or the location. There are these compromises, but overall you're keeping the right client for you. The smart client that's hiring you based on that work wants that look that you created, right? That look that you had sold 60 times in your, or 130 times in your Art Basel Street Portrait series, or your 20 or so Faces of Ecstasy series that were super powerful. Like, they want that look. So you're really not going to compromise on that. You compromise on the little things, but it shouldn't be that much of a compromise. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Whether or not you feel like it's tainted, that's really a personal thing. I don't feel that it is. I want people to pay me for the work that I do. So I'm glad to take that money. It helps me make a living. It pays for my other personal projects. At the same time, it gives the art buyer, the art director, the creative team for whatever company I'm creating art for, it gives them something unique to share. It gives them something fun to show their clients. It makes them more valuable to their boss and their clients and whatnot. And it makes you more valuable to them because you can go ahead and recreate the essence of that project for that client. Now, once you start creating personal projects, you may get very busy because you're talking about it all the time. So you may get very busy with personal work. And that is a trap, and it's a slippery slope, and we need to talk about that briefly. Here's where things get a little dark with personal projects. Now, the success of your own personal project, if to you define success as landing commercial work, it's part of my definition of a successful personal project, besides being self-expressed and growing as an artist, is landing commercial work, because that's, as I mentioned a moment ago, is how I make my living. However, you could be the victim of your own success with a personal self-assignment. Let me explain a little more. If you start getting a lot of work, and that's not a bad thing, right? But you have to manage it. You get a lot of work. And as you start getting a lot of work, and that depends on how many days a month you can shoot. Right now I can shoot 6 days a month, maybe 8 if I really, really stress to manage that properly. But just because of my schedule with being a dad and wanting family time and taking time to myself, 6 days is really where I'm comfortable shooting. I can say, okay, 6 days a month, I can really deliver something epic. More than that, it may be a challenge. So if you start getting a lot of work, and this has happened to me, and this has happened to a lot of photographers, because everything goes in cycles, right? Sometimes you're really busy, sometimes you're really slow. If you're really busy all the time because of the personal projects that you're creating, you start to get a lot of work. And then because you get all this work, you forget to do what? You may forget to be creating that personal project, that work for yourself, that work from love, that work from your self-expression, from who you are as a person. Maybe you forget about that because you get caught in the same look. Hey, we want you to make Giulio, make this look again. Make it look like Faces of Ecstasy. Make it look like our Basel or whatever it is. And you do that again and again and again, and that's fine. But eventually, if you got into this for art like I did, you need to grow. You need to stretch your legs. You need to go in a new direction. Okay? And sometimes to do that, you may have to start saying no to work. I'm sorry, I cannot take on this project. And and you can tell them why. I just tell them the truth. I mean, I'm truthful. I'm just like, I'm too busy doing this. I'm too busy shooting right now, other projects, and I can't take this on right now. And if they, and the reality thing is, if they really, really want it, then they're really going to have to pay. But you try to avoid that as well, because what happens is you get caught in that rut of you're always creating the same look over and over. You kind of become that guy. Maybe all you're doing is creating that same HDR look over and over. And while that may be fine for, say, enthusiasts, and they kind of get used to that look, and you're selling presets or whatever it is, and your audience is enthusiasts, and they get used to that look. Oh, I want to buy the so-and-so's presets. I want that HDR look or that tilt shift look or whatever it is. You will slow down your creativity, your creative growth, and then eventually you may feel stuck, and without being self-expressed. And to me, that's important. That's why I got into this, so I can create over and over again and grow as a human being, as an artist, and be within that state of flow, that enlightenment that I get when I'm creating based on my true self, on my heart. So you have to manage that wisely. Know how many days a month you can shoot for yourself and just overall for commercial work, and make sure that if you're getting really busy, that you make time to sometimes slow down and be present. And if you want to know how to do that, leave a comment. Maybe we can talk about that in another episode. Do things like journaling and really just making time to let your brain rest, your creative brain, doing time to do things like maybe watch movies, read some books, get outside and look at nature, exercise, eat well, maybe take a personal weekend to yourself, things that you can do to let your brain rest, and then to say, okay, I have a clean slate, I'm going to start something new. One of the things that I do is I change camera systems. I don't like to get caught in the same system over and over again. It's usually about 4 or 5 years. I just changed to a new system. I'm enjoying it, but that's not the only thing. That's just like a small part of it. The most important thing is that you make time for yourself. Always think about where you want to go next as an artist. What's your vision? Your vision, don't forget, is the single most important thing when it comes to photography. To hell with gear and trends in photography. Your vision is what is going to communicate on your behalf when you're dead. That is what is communicating on your behalf when you're asleep. That is communicating on your behalf when your portfolio is at a potential client's office. Your vision is what sells more than anything. But in order to build your vision, you have to be out shooting for yourself. And that is super important. So careful of the slippery slope when you get busy, because you are successful based on your personal work, and make sure to always have time for your personal work. Hey, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I did this based on some requests by Chip, what up Chip, and others in the comments. If you want to see videos on more in-depth conversations on how to be a self-expressed photographer and how to make money on that and how not to lose your mind in the process. Leave a comment below on what you're interested in seeing, if I am capable of making it based on my experience as a professional. I will be happy to talk about that. Some things I may not want to talk about just because I'm not into it right now, but you never know. But this conversation is I'm doing this for myself, right? So I'm doing it for myself to learn, because as you teach, you also teach others, you're teaching yourself, but I'm also doing this for you guys, right? Photography is in a weird state right now, if you've not noticed. There's all sorts of people trying to sell you products of things you don't need. You gotta buy the latest this and buy the latest that, and this is the way you need to shoot and all that, and it's all bullshit. You need to shoot for yourself. You need to be the best artist that you can be, okay? And that really doesn't cost anything more than a camera and a lens and a big heart. If you like this video, guys, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And if you visit giuliosciorio.com, I'm going to link that below because I know it's a little hard to spell. You'll see all the projects that I talked about in this video. I got other blog posts that I write on my website from time to time. And if you are a fan of Creator's Path Season 1, there is a Season 2. Okay, it's almost done. I'm taking my time with it because it is another labor of love. And by the way, I'm working on a series right now, and you are part of it.